journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Good evening, Malcontents. My name is David. I am the Malcontent, and welcome to another edition of Malcontentment Happy Hour. Today is February 22nd, 2021, Monday. Jennifer, how are you doing this evening?
I am pretty good. How are you? I'm feeling extra tall because I got my new boots on. So
you got your boot? I know most of the audience doesn't know what you're talking about, but the mod and admin team and I do. They're cute boots.
They're amazing.
Before we get started, Malcontents, this is the time that I always want to tell you. This is the time to spam those hearts as you come in. Spam those hearts. Let the mods and admins know that you love the hard work that they do. And also let our researchers and our contributing editors, the team actually grew last week, to know that you appreciate all the hard work to do. The other thing is, it messes with the algorithm on Facebook, Twitter, and Periscope. If you're on Twitch or if you are on YouTube and you're going, I can't spam hearts, it's okay. You could just put a comment like, I love our mods, or, hey, I'm glad you're here. The other thing I love to see, and I haven't asked for this in a long time, I love to see where you're from. If you're not watching from Seattle, if you're another part of the country, put a shout out over in the comments so we know where you're at. The other thing is, this is the time to do the retweet. This is the time to do the share. This is the time to start a watch party. It helps us grow. We have a huge show set up for tonight. Jennifer, are you ready to just jump into the land acknowledgement?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Malcontent News comes to you from Seattle, Washington, from the occupied homelands of Coast Salish peoples. We are grateful to live and work as guests on these lands, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Duwamish, Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. This land acknowledgement is but one small gesture in the ongoing process of working towards repairing and sustaining relations with Coast Salish lands, waters, peoples, and their other than human kin.
Jennifer, thank you so much for that. We have Ontario, Canada, Eugene, Oregon, and Portland, Oregon in the house tonight, Jennifer. And I'm sure we've got others. I love seeing the shout outs when people are here from other parts of the country. We really, really appreciate, and the other parts of the world for that matter, because, Canada, we're like that meth making family that lives on the downstairs apartment from you. Sorry.
Unfortunately.
We're real sorry about that.
We are sorry.
And I realize you don't want our diseased asses coming across the border and hanging out with you at any time soon. So with that said, Jennifer, why don't we go ahead and jump into our first story?
Okay.
If there's something that we learned last month that was pretty shocking to most of the nation, is that Tacoma Police Department didn't have a lot of body cams, only about 80 of them. And the only other thing that we learned is none of their police cruisers have dash cams. None of them. And because of that, there are a lot of questions on what really happened on 9th in downtown during the sideshow where two people were hit, one very, very seriously injured by police officers. We have analyzed that story and have videos. You can go back to malcontentnews.com. You can review the content that we have over there. But the story basically told by the police officer doesn't fully add up when you watch all of the available videos that are out there. Well, Tacoma Police announced today that by Sunday, over 250 of their officers will have body cams. According to Lieutenant Chris Travis, he said, after the events that occurred at 9th and Pacific, and listening to both our community and city managers and city officials, we wanted to get those cameras out as rapidly as we could in the field. They originally had planned to get them out by the end of March. They're basically going to be out by the end of this week. We looked at body-worn cameras a couple of different times in our history. I think now is the time, with everything going on in today's society, now is the time to take a step forward, which is what we've done. Tacoma Police are still considering whether they want to install dash cams in the dash cam cameras into their police cruisers before everybody freaks out and goes, I could buy a dash cam for $30 on Amazon. Do understand it's not that simple for the police because of the way that the cameras have to be tamper resistant. They have to have synchronized timers. A lot of the dash cams that are in police cruisers are set up that they will automatically turn on if a police officer, say, turns on their lights or sirens. So no, it's not as simple as like just buying a couple of $130 dash cams on Amazon. Jennifer, I'll kick it over to you to unpack this.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. I mean, it's a good thing that they're, going ahead, and I feel like, you talk about how we should give credit where credit is due. And I feel like they're taking a little bit of accountability by, taking the extra step to make sure they're better outfitted with body cams and dash cams. But then it goes back to are they going to ensure that they're properly trained to use them and keep them turned on at all times? Or are we going to see the same repetitive issues where officers are turning off body cams and dash cams to avoid accountability?
Well, and part of what the Tacoma Police Department said is they were accelerating the training for the proper use of the cameras. They further went on to say that it sounds like anybody in the department who is out on the street and could potentially interact with a fellow human will have one of these cameras. So we'll have to wait and see what happens down in Tacoma, but we can call it progress. I give a point, right? Yeah. So I'm going to give 1 point here. By the way, we're coming up on 1 year, Tacoma. I know you punted on the investigation in part because the whole thing stinks to high heaven. And then we learned that Pierce County was involved in what happened with Manny Ellis. Mm-hmm. So we've punted it over to the state. But yeah, Tacoma residents, we're coming up on a year since Manny Ellis said, I can't breathe, no charges. If I were a betting man, I know what they're waiting for. And what they're waiting for is everyone to forget about this story. Don't forget about Manny Ellis. And with that, Jennifer, I think we're going to keep the train moving.
All right.
Jennifer, this is your story about what's going on over at
Yeah,
UW, and I know you have some, in full disclosure, you have some skin in the game in this story.
I do. I am a graduate student in the Department of History at the University of Washington. So I got the emails that they were considering, and I also saw a lot of local news coverage that they were considering some type of sanctions because during the snowstorm, there was a large gathering of a few hundred people on Greek Row at the frat houses having a party. Witnesses say that they were, a lot of people were unmasked. There was a widespread outbreak of COVID on Greek Row earlier in the year, shortly after the pandemic started, then again in the fall. Of course, we reported not long ago, along with other news outlets, that, the UK variant of COVID was actually found in January on the UW campus in the student population. Now they've actually kind of started to crack down a little bit, and it's long overdue.
It's an awful story that we have when we're here on crossing this horrible milestone. We're number one. We're number one. America. Yeah. 500,000 COVID deaths. And one of the things, Jennifer, that pops in my head is if you remember when you first came on the show here, you first came on the show when that meme was going around about the deadliest days in U.S. history. And there were all these people going, well, yeah, but the 1918 pandemic and 650,000 people. And yeah, we're going to hit 650,000 people. Even if Joe Biden and Fauci and all of them wave some miracle magic wand tonight.
Yep.
There is nothing that's going to stop this freight train of crossing 650,000. And it's like, well, but the population was smaller in 1918. Yeah. And they didn't know what a virus was in 1918. They didn't have ventilators in 1918. They didn't have antibiotics in 1918. They barely knew about sterilized fields or other issues like that in 1918, which is why so many people died of the flu. And this isn't the flu. It's not even close to the flu.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And the other thing, Jennifer, is we have these variants. There's the South African variant, which is documented as targeting younger adults and hitting them harder. And oh, by the way, they found it in Idaho. And if it's in Idaho, it's in Eastern Washington. And if it's in Eastern Washington, it's only a matter of time before it gets to this side of the Cascades, if it's not already here in community spread.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things that was so problematic about the Spanish flu is that it targeted otherwise young, healthy people, which is very similar to what this COVID variant in South Africa does. So, the UW has tried to quell people's efforts to leave town for spring break, but that's going to be, I think, an issue in and of itself. It took them long enough to do any kind of sanctions for, the ongoing, basically breaking of protocol and health safety measures on Greek Row. So they've now basically said that students that were in attendance at that party not only have to quarantine, but are not allowed to attend the in-person classes on campus because they are holding a few, especially in the classes that need labs. So, people just need to be more cautious. We're constantly drawing parallels between the 1918 Spanish flu epidemic and COVID. And I think where we most see that, or could potentially most see that, is if we start to have more of that South African variant spread through the population.
Yeah. And we're in this weird position of rooting for the B117 variant out of the UK to kick the South Africans variant, because at least the UK variant responds to the Pfizer vaccine, still responds to general treatment, and it spreads a lot more, but it doesn't seem to target groups of populations that weren't targeted like the South African one. So it's like we're rooting for the lesser of two evils here. Hey, let's have a kegger.
Yes. I know. And then, there's so much we still don't know about COVID. What's particularly interesting is, can you still catch the South African variant after you had the UK variant? There's all these unknown variables, which, then again, boggles my mind why people would take those kinds of risks.
Well, the story that we have in there. And again, I'm glad to see that the UW is saying, yeah, your happy asses aren't going into the classroom anytime soon because you dumbasses.
Me too.
All right. Let's keep moving, Jennifer.
Yes.
Malcontents, this is really a story that I don't want to keep reporting on. And I spent another day pouring through 86 minutes of, quite frankly, absolutely horrific video to distill down 86 minutes into a story. Rochester, New York released 86 more minutes of body cam video, although it's a bit exaggerated that they released 86 more, because in watching that, there was redundant video of about the 15 or 20 minutes that they had released prior. So really, they released about an hour. Jennifer, I'm going to roll the warning clip because this is tough. But I think it's really important to show because, guess what? When you watch 86 minutes of body cam video from the Rochester police, their story doesn't add up anymore. And we're going to get into that, Jennifer. But with that, let me roll the warning. Roll the clip. After the warning, if you don't want to watch this, go walk away for about 2.5 minutes and come back. It's like 2:30 or 2:50.
Yeah.
Why did you call when you left for the car?
I called before.
You did?
Yeah, I'm gonna show you.
What time did you call?
We were fighting, and I ended up calling 912 because
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did call you
Are
guys.
you okay?
Before. Yeah, I'm fine. Like this shit right here, Stitch was fighting this shit.
What's he got a warrant for? I didn't look him up yet.
Yeah, for this.
Okay.
Glad I didn't have to.
Yeah, pull up.
Mine fell on the ground.
She's got her. She's just like kicking everybody. And then mom's trying to fight the people driving by.
I saw that.
She starts getting in on trying to fight them too. I'm like, what the heck's going on?
Officer, please don't do this to me. You did it to yourself, hon. I don't trust officer. He's not. He's not. I'm rolling the windows down so you can breathe. Officer, I swear to God. Spray is burning my eyes. Yep, that's the point. Pepper spray. The ambulance is on their way, and they will clear your eyes out. Pepper spray is burning my eyes! Can you get the pepper spray out of my eye first, please? I can't.
I gotta run after your daughter. I gotta fight your daughter, and you're busy fighting with somebody in a van. What the heck's wrong with you? You apologize? No, I gotta do paperwork. Why?
Oh. I don't know where your dad is. Can you call him? In a little bit. It's there. I can see the ambulance right there. Please, where are they? They're coming. Just not. She just wants her dad. He's not here. She's suicidal. Do you have any diagnosis, hon? Medical or mental? No. No, not like.
Down and cooperate, okay?
Turn it right there, honey, okay? Good job.
They're going to clean you up. They're going to make it stop burning. You're going to get to the hospital, get some help, and you're going to be home probably in the next couple hours, all right?
Sound good?
Are you hurt?
No, my eyes.
Your eyes are burning? Okay.
I want my dad. I'll call your dad on the way there. She's not close to her mom, so she only wants to talk to her dad, but she doesn't have her dad's number. So.
We can probably look that up. Did she told you anything about why we're here? Did you tell your mom anything about you wanted to kill yourself today, or you didn't want to live it? Maybe you were just mad and just said it?
She just keeps saying that her mom's abusive.
Okay.
Okay,
we're going to work on that, all right? All right.
You guys in my partner, because I'm going to be driving.
No. I'm just going to uncuff her.
But she was asking you if you just do one.
You want me to hop in there?
I'm not.
Quinn Section 277, dangerous condition, Elmira Street, Upper Fall.
19 minutes. 19 minutes from the point of pepper sprayed to inside the ambulance and finally getting treated. And it took the EMTs advocating for her to get the handcuffs, which the EMTs were, these are too tight. The other thing that stands out in this video, mom never called about daughter in distress. And mom even says that. We have another clip on that. And mom certainly is not winning any Mom of the Year awards in this or any other lifetime. That's a whole separate friggin' issue. But mom called because the boyfriend, the ex-husband, it's never really clear. The significant other, we don't know if they're still in a relationship or out of the relationship. It's never really clear. But the significant other, the father of this 9-year-old's daughter, stole the mother's car. And that's why the police were called. The other thing that we've learned in that video is in all of this scene going on, there was a person that wandered up on the mother's porch and just and was in the middle of a drug overdose. Just some random person just to kind of throw a wrench into it. And guess who the firefighters went to treat first when they showed up?
Yeah. There's so much I know I was so torn between, especially we're going to show more, but I was so torn about the issues with the mother, the child, talking about some of the things that's going on, the fact that, that after they've treated her so poorly, which we saw in the first video, and then she's basically crying for help, they try to show her I guess the slightest bit of compassion, but it's, too little too late because the child's already traumatized. I wish we knew her name so I didn't have to call her the child because I don't like doing that. But yeah, there's so much, and I think we can talk about this more after we watch the rest of the clips that we have.
Yeah. This is just so hard to watch. And I see all the comments she's 9. Yes, she's 9.
Yes.
And we don't know her name because of privacy laws and because of actually the laws that dictate on streaming. Even if we knew her name, we couldn't say her name because she's under 13 without express written permission from all the parties involved. And so we can only refer to her as a child, but she does have a name. The other thing is, Jennifer, is they don't know her name until minutes after she's pepper sprayed. And that's where, in a couple of those video clips, we hear conversations and it's been muted out. It's because they're saying her name out of the rights and privacies of a child, a 9-year-old child in all of this. Don't forget, this was a 9-year-old child. Who, by the way...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Never apparently threatened by mom's account and by the body camera and the 911 calls. Never said her daughter was suicidal.
Yeah, no. And I think we, like I said, we can elaborate a little bit more and unpack this a little bit more after the rest of the clips. But it's so problematic. If people remember when we showed the initial clips from Rochester, they made no effort to learn this child's name. And the fact that they waited so long to even try and get her name out of her, because, if you remember in the first video, there's officers standing outside the car and they're like, what's her name? They're like, we don't know. They don't even bother to leave inside the car and ask her. There's so much troubling about this. This video is going to haunt me for a little while this evening.
It is. And back to Mom of the Year, because...
Yeah.
We saw mom assault her child, and the police let her do it, and the police didn't do anything about it. We saw that. And you can go back to the original story. It's on malcontentnews.com. So you can go to malcontentnews.com. You can do a search for Malcontent News for Rochester, because that story is way down there now. But you can do a search for Rochester. It'll come up there. But mom is suing. And so let's play the clip.
Changing.
Yes.
Elva Pope spoke out at her lawyer's office about the episode, which she says traumatized her 9-year-old daughter.
She feels like, that she got me in trouble. She feels so bad for that and I had to explain to my baby, you're not in trouble. You're not the bad guy. You had a mistake, and it's okay to have a mistake.
Body camera video of the incident last Friday has touched off outrage. Pope says she called police after an argument in which her ex-boyfriend took off in her car. But after police got there, she alerted them her daughter had run off.
And I'm like, sir, we need a mental health. I think my daughter is about to have a meltdown. He just disregarded me, like he didn't care.
What happened next is now the focus of a lawsuit against the city, as spelled out in a notice of claim which accuses police of infliction of emotional distress, assault, battery, excessive force, false arrest, and unlawful imprisonment. Police representatives acknowledged the police eventually handcuffed and then pepper sprayed the girl, trying to get her into a car. They say it was a chaotic situation in which the child and her mother became hard to handle, while the family says police didn't handle it properly.
If you can't handle a 9-year-old, you have no business being a police officer.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. I know, some of that footage where they're literally complaining about having to handle a 9-year-old child, and it was laughable, but also horrifying at the same time.
Mom and the child became difficult to handle because you basically did, by the DMV-5, everything wrong. Everything wrong. Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent works at the trauma center here, and for irate, out of control patients, and they've had to have, because of the fungus issues over at Children's Hospital, they have had to have pediatric patients there when the operating rooms were closed. Pepper spraying resistant 9-year-old childs, not in the medical handbooks anywhere. No.
I'm
torn about mom suing. There's part of me that goes, yes, she absolutely should sue. She absolutely has a case. But mom is utterly gross in all of this. Mom had contributed to pouring gasoline on this fire. Jennifer, I got bad news. This story gets worse. Because the other thing in researching this story that we've learned is that mom, because I'm sitting here slagging her out, so I'm going to defend mom for a little bit here. Jennifer, mom asked for a mental health officer. She also asked for mental health services for her daughter, and it's on body cam. Interesting, Jennifer, not released in that drop of 86 minutes, though, where she was basically told, too bad, cry us a river, we're not getting anybody else here. So she specifically asked for a social worker to deal with her 9-year-old child, and they're like, no. And then she asked at the hospital for mental health services for her 9-year-old child, and they said, no.
Yeah, no, it's the whole thing is so troubling, from the way the mother acted to the way the child was treated by the police, to the account that followed up, and now everything that we're seeing on body cam that doesn't line up. It's entirely problematic. Back to accountability. This is a 9-year-old child. The way in which this child was treated, the way in which they deprived her of access to, mental health assistance, all of these things are so intensely problematic, especially when we get into talking about, and we show a little bit of the body cam stuff that came out of the Chad Wheeler arrest later, and parallel that with the way in which this 9-year-old child of color is treated. It is absolutely appalling.
Appalling is an understatement here.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I've learned in watching that video, because there was one thing, although we don't have the hard evidence, but there were other people that did start to come out of their houses while this was going on. The police were trying to get statements. Nobody wanted to talk to them. Everybody that was out there was black. None of them trusted the officers. So what we have is we have a group of white officers coming into a black neighborhood, treating a 9-year-old child like a 30-year-old felony suspect.
Yeah.
And the worst part of all, Only one is suspended without pay, and only 2 others are suspended with pay with the ongoing investigation. And we've already been told they probably won't get fired, or probably won't even get any significant punishment because of the way New York state law is written and because of the union contract they have in Rochester.
That's so disgusting. Absolutely
it is
disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting. And with that, we're at the half hour. We're going to do a little pause for the cause, and we're going to keep moving. Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you. So Fairy Goddess 333, I saw your comment while we were on the break. The reason Mom didn't call for an ambulance is Mom never called for a mental health crisis about the daughter. It turns out that that's bullshit. Yeah. What she called about was that her prior significant other, the father of the daughter, had stolen her car. And he had a warrant out for his arrest for stealing the car before. And so she was calling the police, and they showed up because her car was stolen. And the body cam video does not support the initial police version of stories, nor the police positioning the child as suicidal as justification for their actions to basically everybody that they talked to after this engagement started in the first place. So that's what was going on there. Love seeing in the comments. Heavy show. I'm going to take this moment here to say, spam those hearts. Go ahead. Please spam those hearts. You mess with the algorithm. You let our mods, admins, researchers, and contributing editors know how much you appreciate and love them, because Lord knows Jennifer and I appreciate and love them, because we don't have to see the icky comments that some of you get to see before they get to. Anyway, they do a really, really hard job, and they do it over technically 5 channels. So give them some love. And the other thing it messes with the algorithm. If you're new to the show tonight, welcome. We're glad that you're here. Stick around. We think that you're going to like what we have. Jennifer, the show's going to kind of continue down a heavy path for a little bit, but don't worry. We have some palate cleansers for you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and start the next story. If you don't remember, Jennifer, the pug snores are cracking me up. You don't have to get rid of the pug, but man, they have it. Your pug has it dialed to 11 tonight.
Yes, he does. He does. On the app side, the mods I was just looking at the mods chat, and they can hear me better, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We, Malcontents, we're working actually on getting Jennifer new equipment. Her first piece of new equipment, a good microphone, showed up today, and we are hopeful that come Thursday, Jennifer's picture and lighting and everything else is going to be like, it's going to be amazing. Let's talk about Elijah McClain. If you're not familiar with the story of Elijah McClain was attempted to be arrested in 2019. There's just no other way to kind of word this, in August. And what happened to Elijah is a travesty, and it is inching closer and closer to being a crime. Elijah was on the autism spectrum, and he was a brilliant violin player, and he had no prior criminal record. He had no prior issues whatsoever. Police got a phone call. We're going to go ahead and roll the clip here for the minute about a sketchy looking person, and everything went wrong after that. And I'm going to roll the warning clip again because this is really hard to watch.
Hey, stop right there. Stop. 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 I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious.
Well, okay.
Turn around.
No,
Turn around.
actually, your hands are
Turn around.
Stop.
Stop tensing up, dude. Stop tensing up, bro. Stop tensing up.
Let go of me.
Stop tensing up.
He looks sketchy. He might be a good person or a bad person.
Yeah.
But they're mask on.
I am an introvert. Please respect the boundaries that I am speaking.
Relax.
Stop. I'm going home.
Relax, or I'm going to have to change this situation, dude.
Hey, leave me alone.
Sir, can you please cooperate?
You leave me alone.
No, we're gonna talk to you.
You guys started to rush me, and I was stopping my music to listen. Now let go of me. Get over there.
You guys.
I intend to take my power back, and I intend to be
with him, okay?
centered.
No,
I intend to be centered.
just grab your gun, dude.
Stop, dude.
So what happens next is the officers put Elijah McClain, who was autistic, into a cardioid hold, as you saw in there, essentially a choke hold, and they choke him out. They still say he is combative. Paramedics come based on the call from the police, and the police are just basically saying, hey, he probably likes some drug addict or something. Paramedics just took their word for it and gave him a dose of ketamine. The dose of ketamine that they gave him was for somebody over 50 pounds heavier than what he was. And he stopped breathing, and he got brain damaged, and then he was brain dead, and then he died from the injuries of that. And there was absolute outrage from the Aurora, Colorado community from this. And George Floyd happened about almost a year later, actually. Well, May. So, yeah, I guess almost a year. We're splitting hairs, but it's almost a year later. George Floyd happens, and this wound gets torn open. And there was a planned protest vigil involving violin players from across the nation. And it was one of the things when this happened. This one's tough. This one's really tough. I'm just going to roll the clip, and I might need a minute after I roll the clip. And we've already rolled the warning once. I'm not going to roll it again. This is protest, and it's tough to watch. But this is how the police responded to the violin protest.
The name Elijah McClain has spread far beyond his memorial in Aurora.
I see myself in him a lot. That easily could have been me in a lot of situations.
It was like I saw myself in his story. You know, it's like that could have been me.
Ashanti Floyd and Lee Indland Jr. are world-renowned violinists. They heard Elijah's story, saw the video of how he died, and knew they had to speak up.
I saw this as an opportunity to just stand up and be there and show support and solidarity for, you know, the change that's on its way.
Tomorrow, they'll fly to Denver from Georgia and New York to use the most powerful voices they have to fight for justice.
There's a SWAT police. Look at that
Stay back! Get back! Get back! Get back!
Stay front, stay front, stay silent.
No, 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 no! No, 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 no!
Police claim they advanced when people pushed down a fence and tore plywood off store windows, threw water bottles at officers. The Aurora mayor has now called for a special meeting of the city council tomorrow.
Come on. Jade! 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 Come on, let's go back here. Isaiah, come back and play. Come back and play, yeah? Play. Come on, let's go back. The tear gas is coming. Come on.
We were not created to do this. You put
Come on, Jose.
money that you trust God. We were not created to do this. What are we doing?
The only word that comes to mind is dystopian.
Mm-hmm.
It's dystopian to watch that.
Yeah. Like, what threat did those people pose?
That music was played at my wedding. So it's really hard for me to watch this.
Yeah, I just don't understand.
So what's the punchline to this? Now that we've rehashed the story of Elijah McClain, we've gone back to the events of June 27th, which, contrast this to what happened in the Capitol in Washington, D.C., when they didn't just push the fences down, they beat the police officers with the fences. We know it because we saw it live.
Yeah.
And contrast to this. And the other thing is, white allies, where are you? Because what did we see? We saw white people to the front trying to hold the crowd back and putting themselves between them and the police. Where the hell are you now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fired up over this.
Yeah.
There is some glimmer of good news that has come out to this. An independent study of this incident, going back all the way to the August stop, has concluded that when the police officers approached Elijah McClain, they had no probable cause to approach him. There is no crime in 2019 in wearing a face mask. As a matter of fact, now in 2020, in some places, it's a crime not to wear a face mask. And it is important when we look at that story to remember that he was stopped basically because somebody called up going, there's a black person walking down the road wearing a ski mask. And that was enough probable cause in the discretion of the police to stop Elijah McClain, an autistic 23-year-old who loved the violin and had no criminal record. And they choked him out, they doped him up with ketamine, and he died. And now, almost 2 years later, what we've learned is they had no probable cause to stop him in the first place, which anybody who's remotely paid attention in a 6th grade civics class could have told you in the first place.
Yeah. No, it's such a tragic story. It's not only is he, dealing with autism, he probably wasn't, autistic. I mean, there's lots of different kinds of autism. but being approached by police officers maybe, was traumatizing, in and of itself. But the fact that they gave him ketamine, making an assumption about what was going on with him is so grossly negligent. And then, I just, again, after watching some of that footage of the Wheeler body cam and the audio, and then paralleling it with some of this other stuff that we have going on tonight, it's so grossly obvious what is at play here, and it's white privilege and race.
And that's actually a theme of the show tonight when we put a bow on the show at the end. We will continue to monitor this, the Rochester story. And guess what, Malcontents? We have another story tonight about walking while black, which is basically what it just comes down to.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it again. I get up here and I say it and I say it and I say it, and I'm going to say it again. 13% of the American population is black. If you include mixed race, it's 15%. They will never have equality without our support and our help and our allyship. It will never happen because it's numbers. It's just numbers. And so with that, we're going to do a pause and we're going to go into the next segment.
Okay.
Black Coffee is a hub for communities and a hub for meeting people, making friends, and understanding.
What Black Coffee is to me is a place to actually call home, a place where Black youth will feel welcomed, where Black families will come and feel like they're at home.
What we're trying to build is more than just coffee. Community is something that we do naturally. We know who's in the community, we know what the deficits are, and we're trying to fix that. We want to bring people together.
My hope is that the phrase grounded in excellence shows up everywhere and that it becomes a movement.
I'm looking forward to hanging out at Black Coffee with my friends and feeling safe.
Black Coffee to me means opportunity for people like me and my other friends and family to come here and do homework safely and hang out and stuff like that.
That is happening. It is happening.
Black Coffee Northwest is located in Shoreline, Washington. They're between 180th and 170th on the west side of the highway. Check their website and check their Facebook page because they shift their hours from time to time, and I want to get it right. And with that said, the coffee is from Africa. The coffee is amazing. They have great merch. I have to wear my accomplished shirt again. I haven't worn that in a while. And yeah, Jennifer would be complete if I didn't say, go get a potato scone.
I know.
It's like becoming the Malcontent joke here.
Yes. Yeah. And you torment me with them because I can't eat them because I'm vegan. Whatever.
I could just tell you how amazing they are. With that, we're going to go ahead into our next segment, Jennifer.
Okay.
Yes, it's that time again. It is that time for Malcontented Minutes. Mods and admins, get ready to drop the link to the poll. Let me explain to you what Malcontented Minutes is if you haven't watched us before. By the way, if you haven't watched us before, give us a follow, please. We really like that. Although, Instagram, that's fine. But YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, whatever it is, follow, subscribe, like, share, do all that good stuff because it helps us grow. And this is another opportunity to say spam those hearts, spam those hearts. Let our mods and admins know how much you love the work that they do. And let me explain to you what Malcontented Minutes is. We have about 20 minutes, although we tend to go a little bit over, but I think we kind of get it done in about 25 to 27 minutes. There are 10 stories. I tell a story in a minute. Jennifer gets a minute to unpack it. We move on to the next story. And here's the best part. You, the audience, gets to control the news. That's right. What you get to do is vote in our poll, and you get to vote for the story that you want Jennifer and I to talk about a little bit more at the end of the show. Now, We're going to go ahead and have the mods and admins drop the link to that in the comments. However, I would say if you vote right now, you don't know what the stories are. So you can go ahead and hold out for that until we get going. Jennifer, are we ready?
Yes, I'm very ready. I'm very excited because we have some good ones tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, on your markers. All right, here we go. And they's going to start the clock. Story number 1. Seattle Mariners president Kevin Mather is out of a job after going on a 45-minute screed during a Zoom meeting this weekend. Ironically, Mather is having to resign for telling the truth about the rich, the empowered, and the behind-the-scenes of professional baseball. He criticized the Japanese players' English-speaking ability. He talked about how the team intentionally lowballs free agent players, then ties them up in bad contracts to just sit them on the bench, because if they use them, then they actually have to pay them. He criticized up-and-comer Jared Kelenic, outfielder that a lot of Mariners fans are excited about for having a gut, and said even if he destroyed it in the Cactus League, he's not moving to the bigs this season. Same goes for pitcher prospect Logan Gilbert, who they just plan to sit on his happy ass all year. It's worth noting that Mather's rant was in front of a very white, rich audience at the Bellevue Breakfast Rotary Club. As for the Mariners, management has already said, fans, 20-year drought of the playoffs, and we're going to keep cranking. Jennifer, you get time to unpack that.
It's particularly interesting because you talk about, audience, and you can just imagine this room of wealthy white people laughing at his jokes about, the accent of the one person, or, the way in which they, lowball players and then don't pay them and set them on the bench intentionally. You and I talked a little bit about this earlier. I don't always know what stories you're going to do, but we did talk a little bit about this one. And you're right. It's very much like, the villain being caught on videotape. It's extremely gross. Capitalism in and of itself is disgusting. Wealth hoarding, the wealthy just basically don't have a grasp on society and are not ever really held accountable. So this accountability, I think, in this context of him losing his job, he resigned originally, is good, but there's a place for him somewhere else.
Yep. He will be somewhere else in 3 to 6 months, probably making more money and screwing up the lives of more people and getting paid to do it.
Yep.
Because that's how it rolls. All right, Jennifer, you take us to story number 2.
All right. So we're going to start with this week. The Mashpee Wampanoag tribe won their legal battle over the Trump administration appeal and will keep their reservation status. Quote, the claim that the tribute of the first light, the tribe of the first Thanksgiving, was not an original Native American tribe has always been disingenuous, said Rep. Bill Keating, and that the Trump administration's sudden attempt to remove their land from trust last March in the midst of a pandemic was heartless. This is this whole idea about recognition and trust status and things like this has been ongoing for Native peoples since the development of reservations, and in particular after the Dawes Allotment Act of 1887, when basically Native peoples on reservations were forced into private property ownership, and they checkerboarded reservations and sold off chunks of land to white settlers. So this is a huge victory because there's been a lot of contest about, the Mashpee Wampanoag, because they're so small, being able to keep this land. There wasn't a lot of land there. And if you look at the longer history of reservations and Native peoples, especially in the Northeast, it's extremely problematic. But, the Wampanoag were basically the first tribe that settlers in but settlers on the East encountered during Thanksgiving, and that helped them survive the winter.
Chief Massasoit was the chief of the Wampanoags when the Pilgrims showed up in Plymouth in 1620, and we get the name of the state, Massachusetts, from Chief Massasoit. We have a piece that is up on Malcontent News that we put up every year about Thanksgiving time that goes into the story of the Wampanoag and the contributions that they made to, quite frankly, keep the settlers from starving to death. So it is beyond disingenuous to say, They're not a tribe, not really, because it's just beyond disingenuous. We can keep unpacking this, but we have to keep moving. And with that, we're going to go ahead to story number 3. Story number 3. It could have been a catastrophe, but it turned into a perfect situation. In a sign of the times, the Butler County Sheriff Bomb Squad was called for a suspicious package left outside the doorstep of a church in New Miami. Officers stalked the black duffel bag with stealthy determination, waiting for the right chance to pounce on the felonious situation. And inside the bag, they found a complex device of potential cuteness destruction. Sprinkles the cat and her 6 healthy kittens blew up the local news. All are in good health, and the domesticated I can't even do this. Terrorists are at the Animal Friends Humane Society in Hamilton, Ohio. Officials don't plan to charge Sprinkles, saying the worst she could do is wharf up some hairballs. You get 60 seconds.
How am I supposed to follow that, like full of cat puns story you did there? That's absolutely adorable. I always hate to see when animals are dropped off like that, especially mama and babies. So I hope that they all find good homes. And I'm really glad that, Sprinkles is not going to be charged with any crimes. So yeah, I think that's a good thing.
All right, I guess we can move to the next story. Yeah. There you go.
All right, so more altruism out of Texas in the Lake Travis area. And so local businesses are feeding the hungry. So you have Lakeway Crago's Pizza and Pastaria, owner Andrew Rinkin, hunkered down with his family riding out the icy weather at his Hudson Bend home. Instead, he took calls from hungry patrons and fired up the pizza oven because they had plenty of ingredients. And working with inventory he had prior to the storm, he basically made meals for 120 workers in the hospital that evening. And then Good Samaritans in the area with 4-wheel drive vehicles helped make the food and delivered it to the hospital. So this is just another instance. Last week, we talked about the furniture store, helping and letting people in when they had no heat and food, and what a huge thing that was. But we also had a brewery that opened. We have, just a lot of people in that area that have resources helping out each other. And I think that's a really good example of altruism and community. And perhaps Ted Cruz could learn a little something from that.
So I lived in Texas for 8 years, and my parents retired into rural East Texas, Polk County. So Lake Travis would have been northeast from there. There's a Family Guy. I know, like the Malcontent's just going to go to Family Guy. There's a Family Guy episode, one of the early ones, where they go into the witness relocation program because of Meg. And they go down to the South, and it ends with this punchline where the Griffins, of course, screw everything up, piss everybody off. But in the end of the day, the people helped them out. He's like, wait a minute, we thought you were mad at us. And we're like, well, we are, but I'm paraphrasing. When the shit hits the fan here in the South, we look out after each other. I will say this, after living in Texas for 8 years, it's really friggin' true. That is what I witnessed down there. But don't worry, Malcontents, or Mew-contents. Courtney, I saw that. Sprinkles the cat is a Mew-content. They'll go back to hating each other. They're already at it right now, thanks to Ted Cruz, but we'll unpack that one a little bit later. All right, moving on to story number 5. We told you we would hold the Biden administration accountable, and we're staying true to that promise. The U.S. government is sounding the alarm of its ability to handle an influx of minor children crossing the border. As COVID continues to rage and record cold devastates Mexico and Texas last week, the government has the capacity to hold about 8,000 children, and right now they're at 90% capacity. Protocol, even under the Trump administration, is nobody should be in those detention camps more than 72 hours. As of January, there were 179 were held for more than 3 days, 45 were held for more than 10 days. Immigration activists call these facilities freezers because of the low temperatures inside, and that was before the Arctic blast hit Texas. The administration is struggling to manage the influx while not losing track of children in the system, where 750 kids today are awaiting placement. Kids in cages. Still, do better. Jennifer, you get to unpack that shit show.
Yeah, I'm going to say this again, and we've talked about this before. I hear people all the time say, we need to get these kids out of cages because that's not who America is. Yes, it is. If you look at, our history, one of the ways in which white Europeans that later became white Americans got populations that were not like them under control was by breaking up their families, was by taking their children. You see this in slavery. That was one of the ways in which they kept slaves docile, was by breaking up families and taking away their children. If you look at the longer history of U.S. government relations with Native peoples, boarding schools, adoption, the Indian Child Welfare Act in the 1970s made it so they had to stop taking so many Native children from families and placing them with white families. This is who America is, and it continues to be this way because it's effective and it has to stop. But people need to stop ignoring the longer history of it first.
You could don't drop the new mic. But you could metaphorically drop the mic after that. But please don't drop the new mic. All right, Jennifer, we can unpack that one. Reminder, malcontents, you get to vote because we're at the halfway point. You get to vote and pick the story you want us to unpack. We're halfway there. So you may not want to vote right now because you may have a new favorite as we go down. And with Jennifer, with that, you could take it away with story number 6.
Oh, this is my favorite story too, because it follows so nicely with us talking about children in cages. So Senator Ted Cruz, of course, takes his family to Cancun, because he wanted a better life for them. So he figured he better cross the border. A mariachi band was seen playing outside of the home of Texas Senator Ted Cruz on Sunday as outrage continued over a short-lived holiday to Cancun, Mexico during a devastating storm. And as the Independent reported, according to witnesses, some of Mr. Cruz's neighbors went out to the street to watch the impromptu mariachi performance, which was organized by Houston-based Twitter user Brian, I'm probably going to butcher this, Havinka. There's a silent L there, I believe. So just a typical Sunday mariachi band in town, said the Texan in a video. So this was a way in which people were kind of protesting out there, Cruz's impromptu, which he says was a necessity, this trip to Cancun. And I believe we have a clip.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Where do we start with Lion Ted Cruz? Do we start with him throwing his kids and wife under the bus? Do we start with him and his fake photo ops this weekend where he actually probably didn't help a soul with people who have analyzed the pictures? Do we have to admit that a broken clock is right twice when Donald Trump gave him the moniker of Lying Ted Cruz in 2016? Yeah. Because there you go. We'll give the devil 1 point there. I mean, what a dirtbag. And, Texas, I don't know. I'm reading stories that he'll survive this, yada, yada. Texans are pissed.
Yes, they
are pissed. And I don't know if he's going to survive this.
I hope not, but that was amazing. So kudos to Brian for organizing that, because good job.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we're going to move on to story number 7. The Catholic League, a conservative nonprofit with over 11,000 members, is also unhappy with President Joe Biden. They have stated that Biden has a total disinterest in supporting religious communities because of his obsession with the right of LGBT plus people. The league chastised Biden for not talking about human rights more broadly and focusing on the rights of homosexuals and transgender people. CEO Bill Donahue, professional victim, wrote, in contrast to Biden's obsession with the rights of sexual minorities is his total disinterest in the rights of Christians. He ended his tirade by saying Biden's selective interest in human rights suggests that the rights of Christians at home count less than the rights of males and females who are, wait for it, sexually confused. As we reported last week, the U.S. House is voting on the Equality Act, which is expected to pass without GOP support this week. Jennifer, you get to unpack wonderful human being CEO Bill Donahue.
Man, do I even have to? Like, I mean, I think if you're on my Facebook, which you are, you know how I feel about like these ideas, these, you know, very archaic ideas about gender norms and gender roles and who belongs in what category and how damaging these categories are. You know, if this is just another incidence of somebody from an older generation, older white male thinking, you know, they know best and afraid of change and really holding on to these archaic values and this idea of the nuclear family and these very rigid gender identities. And quite frankly, I am just kind of over all of it. And so I will be very happy when we get these laws passed next week that kind of push people, even those who are very uncomfortable, towards equality.
You ready for story number 8?
I am ready.
All right, here we go.
All right, so on university campuses, you know, most are remote. So in places like the University of Chicago and Vassar in New York, you have LGBTQ plus students actually organizing remotely and providing support to one another, and, you know, starting these groups where they can come together and share their common interests and share their struggles and not feel so isolated. And so they are organizing these remote via Zoom. They have like a lavender graduation. They have, you know, people helping out freshmen who identify as LGBTQ plus. And it's just kind of this way in which they can develop community in the midst of this pandemic, you know, when a lot of people are, you know, very much struggling with, you know, ongoing inequality because of their identity. And it's just a really nice way that these universities and these groups are coming together, forming community, and providing each other with, you know, very pertinent support.
So I always like to point out when we have stories that seem to line up like this, Jennifer and I do not collaborate on our stories. We go out, pick our stories, because this happened last Thursday where we had stories that were like lining up, 2 stories that lined up into like one bigger story. And no, we just, this is just the way the chips fell, so to speak. I think this is fantastic. It isn't just help with their community. Everyone's feeling isolated right now. Hello. And I can make the excuse of, well, I'm going to go out and film this protest or something. But I mean, a lot of people are feeling super isolated. Work engagement is off 62%. Depression is up 46% because everyone's feeling alone. So anything that helps people not feel alone, I'm all for. Anything that helps marginalized communities feel more connected, I'm even more for.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right, story number 9. If Facebook knocks us off the air for this, you can go to malcontentnews.tv. There's but not .com.tv, and you can keep watching us on Twitch. I'm very serious. We may get knocked off the air for playing this clip on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, get ready to have your mind explode. take my money. Jennifer,
Yeah.
you got 60 seconds to unpack that.
How do I even unpack that? So I was like in awe when because you said it a few days ago, I think, in our like news chats. And I was like, wow, that is really amazing, because of course now I'm hooked on TikTok, which is basically ruining my life. Yeah, I mean, what an amazing, talented performer. Super cool that we got to share this, especially after as heavy as the show has been so far this evening. So I hope people got to enjoy that as a little bit of a palate cleanser.
I just, I need to do a slide on this note. So I'm just going to detune the guitar and then retune it by ear in the middle of playing.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll wait.
And look how young he is. Look, I mean, he's a youngin'.
Yeah.
I say he, it could be they. They are youngin'. They're a youngin'.
I totally admire people with musical talent because I have none. I tried to play the violin for a while, but it sounded like I was just murdering a cat. And my brother is super musically inclined, but yeah, I have none of that.
All right, Jennifer, you can take us home. Story number 10.
Oh man, are you guys sitting down? This is a tough one. Kim Kardashian and Kanye West are getting divorced. That's right. You heard it here and probably like 6,000 other places. But, their union is ending. Who didn't potentially foresee this coming? He had, of course, his brief run for the presidency, those very problematic comments he made to TMZ about slavery being a choice, for which he was called out on, and other, concerned about his mental health over the past several years. Basically, their relationship has kind of fallen apart over the last few years. They were living in separate spaces. He was living in, I believe, Wyoming, wanted her to relocate there. She was like, I am not doing that. And I think they have 4 children together now, but that union has quickly come to a close. And I hear that they're kind of rushing through the divorce, and she will be changing her name back to just Kim Kardashian here very soon.
Do you think this hurts his presidential run for 2024? Let's ask the hard-hitting questions.
I mean, God, I hope so.
They have 4 kids?
They do have 4 kids now, yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, she's a Kardashian, but she's done some good stuff. She's working, trying to become a lawyer. So she's been raising the children while he's been in Wyoming. I'm sure she's got a lot of assistance, but still 4 children in any capacity is quite difficult, especially when you have a lot of other stuff going on. So yeah, I think at this point, she's just kind of trying to get through this as quickly as possible, kind of try and keep a little bit under the radar, which is basically impossible because it's Kanye West and she's a Kardashian. So yeah, we'll see what happens after this.
We shall see. All right, Malcontents, this is it. It's time for the mods and admins to go ahead and drop that link one more time over in the comments. Now is the time. This is where you get to vote on the story that you want Jennifer and I to unpack at the end of the show. And we got a long show tonight. We got a lot of ground to cover, but we're moving fast. Jennifer, I actually think in the big scheme of things, we doing pretty good.
Yay!
Hopefully we don't rat hole the Insurrection update, because we have a way of going deep on the Insurrection update. So we're going to keep it moving. Brief pause for the cause, and then we're going to go ahead and go into the next segment.
Cool.
We're not going with them.
There we go. There's the right button.
Hi.
So far, that's been the least of our problems tonight. I've hit the wrong
Yes.
button once. Can You Hear Us is our documentary about events that happened in Seattle from June 1st through July 4th. It is a pivotal moment in Seattle history and something that locally will be discussed for probably the rest of the city's history. The documentary will be out for general release next week. So we will have this out next week for everybody to see. It'll probably be more towards the end of the week, but it will be out next week. And with that, we're going to go ahead into our next story. And Jennifer, I just want to say, Ursinate, I hope I'm getting your screen name right. Thank you for coming in here. It's okay voting blind. Lots of Americans do it. That's how we ended up in the shit show that we're in today. So Sidney Powell has already called me 4 times and threatened a lawsuit over the poll, saying that it's unfair and that there is signs that Dominion voting has been cheating in the poll. And we've explained to her that we don't use Dominion software. The last thing is, before we do this, another brief pause for the cause, because it's really not going to be appropriate after this story to do it. So Jennifer, before I hand it over to you, spam those hearts. Let our mods and admins know that you love them, appreciate what you do, and mess with that Facebook, Twitter, and Periscope algorithm. If you are on Twitch, you can use our amazing emotes, only if you're a subscriber, and you could use lots of those emotes. You can use Yoda, you can use Malcontent News, you can of course use me and Jennifer. If you're over on YouTube, we love you on YouTube, we really do. And you can just put a big long line of hearts. Jennifer, this story just gets grosser and grosser and grosser. And let me hand it over to the grossness to you.
Oh, well, thank you for that. So we've done quite a bit of reporting, as have other outlets, about the Chad Wheeler case. Of course, Wheeler was arrested in January for felony domestic assaults. In my opinion, it should have been attempted murder, but here we are. And so things have been continually coming out. Of course, Aaliyah, his former partner, did an interview about her experience and what happened with her. He was released on bail, petitioned to leave the state and return to Hawaii. Then, of course, we did some reporting along with other news outlets about another domestic violence incident Wheeler had, I believe in 2015 at USC when he was in college. And so now we're actually getting some of the body cam footage and the audio from the actual arrest. And what is absolutely disgusting about this, and I'll let you guys kind of see this for yourself when David rolls the clips, is the way in which he is treated in comparison to some of the other things we've seen this evening and just, throughout the last year and even longer. So David, why don't you go ahead and roll the clip?
Yeah, before we roll that clip, 2 things. The actual audio video that's available is close to 7 minutes. We're not going to play the whole 7 minutes. That's number one. And the second thing is I'm going to roll the warning because even though there is mostly just audio to this, the audio is freaking gross. He is so down the abuser rabbit hole with what he's saying. If you have been a victim of domestic violence, straight up, this could be really triggering for you. And I would say leave the room for 3.5 minutes and come back. And with that, I'm going to roll the warning and the clip.
Okay.
hands behind your back. Hey, put your fucking hands behind your back. All right. Hey, fucking hands behind your back, dude. Hey, he's got one back. All right. Pull him out of there. I got one hand. Loosen your arm.
Fuck. Okay. Please don't shoot me. Okay.
Hey, don't fucking pull away.
Okay.
Hey, quit fucking pulling away. Knock your shit off. Quit fucking around. Understand?
Yeah.
Roll the fuck over right now.
Shit.
Do it. Do you understand?
Why?
Roll over. Setting up your arm.
Can we pull him out?
Yeah, we can. Kurt, you need to back out.
Okay. Please, fuck. Holy shit.
Okay, listen to me. We're taking you out of the tub, okay?
All right.
Remember what I told you before? If you don't comply with us, you're going to get hurt. Do you understand? Okay. Get out of the tub. Get out. Okay. Go. Okay. Back up. Get out of here. Hey. What are you resisting?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Got hands?
Don't be sorry. Just fucking stop.
Hey, Curl, look out. Curl, look out. Put your hand back. Put your hand behind your back, dude. Put your hand behind your back. Put your hand behind your back. Let's go.
Oh, please stop. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Aaliyah, please, I love you. Aaliyah. Aaliyah, I love you. Please. Please, I swear I'll stop. I swear. I love you. You're my soulmate.
Quit resisting, dude. Hey.
Aaliyah.
Stop resisting.
Aaliyah, please. Aaliyah. Aaliyah. Please, I love you.
There we go.
Aaliyah.
Okay. Yeah. Just stand by. Hang on. Hey, stay down. Sorry.
All right, Jennifer, it's flipping gross.
It's absolutely disgusting, and you're going to have to bleep me because I'm just going to say this one thing to Chad Wheeler, like, fuck you, dude. Like, fuck you. I see you, and I see what you're doing. Like that I love you, I'm so sorry bullshit, calling her name. That is such a gross, manipulative, disgusting, domestic abuser playbook garbage. I've watched this video multiple times, and as some of you who watch regularly know, I survived domestic abuse. And what's going on here is, like you said, David, textbook abuser, just rhetoric. This I'm so sorry, I love you, you're my soulmate. Absolute garbage. Not to mention the way in which he is treated by the police, especially given his size, what he did to her, and how long it took to subdue him. Hello, white fucking privilege.
He is tased in that audio. We've clipped that part out. We do hear a taser go off at one point, but he also complains about the handcuffs being too tight. And unlike a 9-year-old child in Rochester, New York, the police loosen the cuffs for him because they're too tight.
Fuck all of that. I'm sorry, excuse my language, but just straight to fucking hell with all of it.
Man, I keep missing the camera. There we go. That was
Okay, I'm done swearing for tonight, guys. Sorry.
Oh, you say that, but I know there's more F-bombs coming. We will continue to monitor this story. Jennifer, I had a realization that we've skipped over a story. I don't have the header queued up.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, I have no way to actually figure out, because I quickly programmed the button, if this button is actually going to play the clip. So Malcontents, we're going to go ahead and dive into some concrete. And this story is going to take us to Plano, Texas. This is a story about an 18-year-old young man who on February 16th committed the crime of walking while black.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed when I push this button that the right story is going to play. So let's try it out.
Hey, man. Whoop. You trying to get home? Are you trying to get home? You sure? You need a ride somewhere? Hey, look, we just want to make sure you're all right. We just want to make sure you're all right.
Come here.
Sir, you need to talk to us, okay?
Sir.
I'm good, bro.
Can you calm down? All right. Sir.
Don't touch me.
Sir, look, we just want to talk to you.
All
right?
Good. I'm on the way home. I'm straight.
Okay.
Where the fuck I'm going?
Okay, but you're walking in the middle of the road.
All right. I understand that. My bad. I'm not in the middle of What y'all want?
We just trying to figure out where you're going.
Home. I just said that. Oh, you okay, dude?
Watch out, man.
Where's home at?
Do you want us to just give you a ride?
No, I'm good. I do this every night, literally. I'm straight.
Okay. You ain't cold or nothing?
No.
With that cheap shirt on?
I said that. I'm good.
What's your name, man?
Nah.
Huh?
I don't know.
You don't know? Can you just stop and talk to us for a minute?
Bro.
Do you mind? Do you mind just talking to us for a minute? Just talk to us for a minute. Just talk to us for a minute.
I ain't gonna put my hand on a female. Please don't touch me.
Okay. I'm just trying to get your attention, okay? We're just trying to make sure you're okay.
Don't touch me.
We're trying to make sure you're okay. We're trying to make sure you're okay. Sir?
No, what?
We're trying.
No, what?
We're doing an investigation.
I don't care. I'm going home.
You were officially detained.
No.
Yes, yes you are.
Bro. Stop. Just relax.
Just relax, all right?
Just relax.
We're just trying to talk to you.
I got an anger problem. Please get off me. Y'all not, no.
Stop.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to touch you.
Yeah, you didn't stop. Put your hands behind your back now.
Yeah, so that's 18-year-old gentleman out of Plano, Texas. And I'm getting a lot of Elijah McClain vibes there, Jennifer.
Yeah. He's not doing anything. He's literally walking home from the store with a visible bag of goods, and all he's asking is stop harassing me.
So he ended up arrested on the misdemeanor charge of walking in the road.
Yeah.
I'm like, because as we have here in the Seattle area, because we're not big on snow removal, as Texas is not big on snow removal either.
Yeah.
When the sidewalks are total pieces of shit, what do people do here? We saw it happening just a week ago. Oh, that's right. They walk in the road because it's easier to walk in the road. And we even hear the police officers in their conversations slipping a couple of times. She goes, whoops, as she comes out. She slips a second time, even tells the officers that are with her, hey, look out, like right over there. It's like it's icy there.
Yeah.
So somebody called the police again, going, there's an individual who is stumbling around in the middle of the road, and I'm worried for their welfare.
It's snowing. It's icy. I mean, it's not like this person is walking around. He doesn't remotely look suspicious in any capacity. He's carrying a bag from the store. That's it. It's not doing anything.
So the story behind the story is he was walking home from work. He's an employee at Walmart. And despite the fact that it had been snowing and bitterly cold for 3 days, because this is the 16th and the event started there on the 14th, Walmart still wanted his happy ass there as an essential worker. He was walking his happy ass in the cold of the store. He was walking his happy ass home as a productive member of society with no criminal record, by the way, Jennifer, and a tax-paying adult, no less. And the police chief, or acting police chief in Plano, Texas, there's a lot of acting police chiefs across the country, has torn up the charges against him, basically saying that once he said to them, I'm good, leave me alone, I'm walking home, they no longer had any probable cause to continue the interaction with him. None, zero, zilch, nada.
Yeah, they're basically harassing him. They're like, do you want to ride? He's like, no, I'm good. Why did they continue to follow and harass him afterwards, other than he's black and he's walking down the road and there's nobody else around? That's
and walking through what looks like a nicer suburban neighborhood. Oh, wow, scary black person.
That was my thought too. And like, there's not any cars on the road. Like, what was the big concern there? Honestly, other than he's a black guy walking down the road in the in a nicer neighborhood.
That was what the big concern was there. And that had the potential, as we have seen over and over and over again, to go completely sideways.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was not happy about what was going on. I don't blame him. I mean, really. Like, and they're continuing to follow him, continuing to harass him. And they're like, we're doing an investigation. Next thing you know, they're handcuffing him.
Yeah.
An investigation of what?
This is contrasted because this is the 16th of February. And I get that Plano, Texas and Conroe, Texas are two totally different jurisdictions, and they're in totally different parts of the state. Again, I lived in Texas. I live 30 miles from Conroe, Texas. On the 16th of February, an 11-year-old child literally froze to death in his bed in Conroe, Texas. The family is now suing ERCOT for $100 million. And if there's any ridiculous-ass lawsuit for a ridiculous-ass amount of money that I've ever in my life felt like, I hope you get every flippin' penny. That's one of them. And you have to tell me that in Plano, Texas, because we could see when he turns the corner, he is walking through a neighborhood that the power is out. Yes. Everything has gone dark. So you have people freezing to death in your homes. And Plano, Texas, you're telling me could get 3 police cruisers out for a black person walking in the middle of the street in the middle of one of the worst weather disasters in Texas history.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the big complaint? Oh, he's not wearing a jacket. He must be on drugs. Was like that it? Like, I mean, this is such a laughable story. Laughable because, I mean, it's so absolutely absurd and so blatantly, obviously about race. Also sees the means of production. People, Walmart sucks. So yeah, it's just like, it's the most ridiculous thing. And if people ever needed evidence that black people are treated differently than white people, we just paralleled you 2 stories where this giant white dude literally tries to kill his girlfriend and is given the kind of kid gloves treatment, while this dude, black dude walking down the street, basically gets arrested because he tells him he doesn't want to ride.
You want some candy?
Yeah.
All right. On that happy note, Malcontents, Jennifer, we're actually doing really good for time for as much as we had in the show. We're going to do another little brief pause for the cause, and then we're going to go into our next segment.
Okay.
We really appreciate all of our patrons. We love that you help keep us financially stable and that we are now able to kind of do more because we have more patrons. For as little as $5 a month, you can help keep the lights on, literally and metaphorically, here at Malcontent News, and you can keep us paid advertiser free. Jennifer, are we ready to jump into the next segment?
Yeah, are we going to do Black History Month first?
Jennifer, I have Black History at the end of the Insurrection update because that buys us a little time to find out about the poll.
Cool. Thank you.
So yes, I have not forgotten about it. I have show notes. Okay. And we talked about but that was the one segment we didn't talk about when we were syncing up on things here. It's Insurrection update. Jennifer and I's favorite part of the show.
Yeah.
And with that, Jennifer, because I did the last story, I'll let you go first. We're going to have to speed round this puppy here.
All right. Are we ready? Let's go.
We're ready. Go.
Keeper leader Jessica Watkins claims coordination with Trump administration officials. In her legal defense for her actions during the January 16, 2021 insurrection, accused domestic terrorist Jessica Watkins claims she was given a VIP pass to the pro-Trump Save America rally, met with Secret Service agents providing security for legislators and others, and was there in a collaborative security capacity with government officials. On January 5th and 6th, Ms. Watkins was present, not as an insurrectionist, but to provide security to the speakers at the rally, to provide escort for the legislators and others to march to the Capitol as directed by then President Trump, and to safely escort protesters away from the Capitol to their vehicles and cars at the conclusion of the protest. The court filing said on Saturday, quote, she was given a VIP pass to the rally. She met with Secret Service agents. She was within 50 feet of the stage during the rally to provide security for the speakers. At the time the Capitol was breached, she was still at the site of the initial rally where she had provided security, end quote. The U.S. Secret Service, in response to Watkins' claims in the Saturday filing, denied that private citizens were working with the Secret Service to provide security on January 6th, which is kind of, you know, whatever, they're going to deny whatever, but this kind of segues into this idea that, hey, this is a lot deeper than we thought.
So, Jennifer, one of the things oh, wait a minute. I was just going to say, I haven't seen comments on Facebook for a while. So I was like, I think Facebook might have caught up with the Led Zeppelin clip, but I just literally saw some Facebook comments. So I guess either people are citing back in, but I am under the impression that Facebook knocked us off the air for the Led Zeppelin clip. We'll, of course, have to file against it, and a week later they'll say, sorry. Hey, Mark Zuckerberg, fuck you.
This is written. This is written.
All right, let's go here. Joseph Fisher of North Cornwall Township is spending the night at the Gray Bar Hotel in Dauphin County for his alleged involvement in the insurrection. He has been charged with obstruction of law enforcement during civil disorder, knowingly enter or remaining in a restricted building or grounds without lawful authority, violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds, and obstruction of justice in Congress. Fisher has been suspended. Jennifer, you're going to find this one interesting.
Power grid was shut off by Dickless here. They caused an explosion. Is this?
He was suspended without pay. I actually don't know why that clip just played. That's totally weird. He's been suspended without pay. Pending the criminal investigation, officers said Fisher was bragging on his Facebook profile. This is how you know Antifa didn't do this. About storming the federal building under the username SV Spindrift. He published a video, of course he did, featuring him at the front of a group of rioters pushing police officers. Capitol Police body cams show Fisher involved in assaulting police officers inside the Capitol while ironically wearing a thin blue line flag on his chest.
These are like the dumbest attempted revolutionaries ever. And again, this just provides more evidence that this was not Antifa, because Antifa is not this fucking stupid. Excuse me.
You're not the same. I'm an American. You're a sick asshole.
All right, Jennifer, you can do the next one.
Okay. So, U.S. investigating ties between Roger Stone, Alex Jones, and Capitol rioters. Big shocker, right? The Department of Justice does state that their interest in Jones and Stones is more about establishing a timeline. Alex Jones, in the day after the insurrection, claims he was invited to the White House, met with Trump on January 3rd, 2021, and was told he would lead the march to the Capitol. He expressed the same story on InfoWars. Stone was defended by a group of Oath Keepers on the morning of the 6th outside of his hotel, which conveniently kind of lines up with our first story. And some of those same people are now arrested for their involvement in the insurrection. The Department of Justice confirmed the investigation and said it could take, quote, some time to unravel the connections.
Oh my goodness. Of course it'll take some time to unravel the connections. Yeah, Alex Jones, we actually played that video clip. We may have played it as the insurrection was going on because we were jumping from TV station to TV station. And I do truly appreciate the mainstream media stations realizing the enormity of that situation. They could have done a bunch of DMCA takedowns afterwards. And they left the independent journalism community completely alone afterwards. We were literally jumping from AT&T TV channels and kind of flipping through them. Yeah. But Alex Jones was on there going, hey, I'm leading this thing. And Donald Trump says he's going to be right there with me. We also know that some of the people, as you said, that were with Roger Stone were with him on the morning of the 6th, acting as his bodyguards. And then they stormed the Capitol, which, of course, Roger Stone was like, well, I never left my hotel room. And then somebody was like, but we saw you outside. And, well, I only left my hotel room for that. And then I stay in my hotel room all day.
Of course you did, Roger.
Yeah, whatever. All right, I'm going to do you a solid.
You're gonna
because I know you want this story. So your favorite person, you can have it.
Okay. So we all know that I just love Lauren Boebert. And before we start this, I just want to clarify that she is a GED recipient. We do talk about it in this, but there's nothing wrong with getting a GED. I got a GED at 34, and I am now on my way to getting a doctoral degree, so GEDs are fine. But here we go. Lauren Boebert doesn't understand the Constitution. Well, that really shouldn't come as a shock, as the recent GED recipient should have spent more time studying civics, as should a lot of other Americans. A bipartisan bill has been introduced in the House to prevent members from being armed in the chamber. Boebert isn't having it, though, saying in a tweet, quote, protecting and defending the Constitution doesn't mean trying to rewrite the parts you don't like, end quote. The well of irony is deep and cold because there are these things called amendments, 27 of them, in fact, where the Constitution was rewritten to change parts people didn't like. But wait, there is more. Boebert herself co-sponsored a bill calling for a constitutional amendment creating term limits for congressional leaders. Way to go, my favorite person, Lauren Boebert.
And we're not slagging out people that got their GED. This is a person who is creating laws. She is in the legislative branch, and she doesn't even understand the document that she is talking about. You can have a GED. If you paid more attention in the civics section, you would know more about civics. I've heard people mumbling, Jennifer, that there should be a requirement for senators and Congress critters to take the citizenship test.
They should.
Because you can't convince me that Madam Boebert would be able to pass it.
No, and I think most people, when we actually ITA'd a class that was like, Peoples of the United States, where we actually made the students take the civics test, and they had to study for it. And it was really difficult for a lot of them, even, students that had been raised in the United States their entire life. And actually, it was interesting to me because the students that were international students understood it and actually did better on it than the students that were raised in the U.S.
Of course they did, because you're forced to study it.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Mrs. Malcontent went through this on her path to U.S. citizenship, and I was helping her study for the tests. And there was stuff in there that I was like, I'm a little rusty on some of this stuff. So,
yeah.
Jennifer, we have a story about love American style here. The couple that insurrects together can't stay together, certainly when they're both locked up. Keeping it all in the family, Sandra Parker, 60, and her husband, Benny Parker, 70, members of the Oath Keepers, were arrested and are now facing several charges. Both were released without bail because white privilege. Mm-hmm. Why not?
Yeah.
The Parkers and several other people in similar camouflage and military combat gear were captured on video on January 6th, plowing through the crowd outside the Capitol, following essentially military protocol for moving through a crowd. According to the criminal complaint, Bernie had been coordinating with the Oath Keepers all the way back to November 11.
So here's my question, though. Are they ever going to get to go back to the liberal Freedom Palace?
That was just like some of the best. That was like some of the best things with the arrests. The arrest stories that were coming out.
The arrest so much. Do you remember the one where the guy was like, turns to his girlfriend and was like, I couldn't imagine doing this revolution with anyone but you. And it was like this super romantic moment. Yeah.
It's love American style.
Yeah.
All right, mods and admins. Everybody, you have like 30 seconds left to vote in the poll for the story you want Jennifer and I to unpack. You got about 30 seconds left. Jennifer, you could go ahead and do Black History. I'm going to keep my eyes on the comments. Mods, admins, let us know what's the winning story that we're unpacking.
Okay, so as a lot of you know, we've been doing Black History Month. So every time we're on happy hour, we pull something up relative to Black history. So you guys can go check it out and see what's going on. And so tonight, KEXP, and I don't know how many of you listen to KEXP, it's awesome, did a whole entire kind of like homage to Black History Month. That's tons of music, performances, articles, really great stuff. The mods have the link, and it's just basically KEXP Black History Month. But there's articles, again, there's performances, music lists, really great resources for people who are especially interested in music, and just kind of learning more about some of the Black artists that are out there at the moment. So, you know, sometimes we do books, sometimes we do documentaries. This time we're doing some music. It's like a beautiful long lineup, some great articles, some amazing music. I was listening to it earlier, so please do yourself a solid and check it out.
Yes, absolutely. Please do. And Jennifer, thank you for pulling this together this month. Yeah. Jennifer and I had a conversation at the start of the month, and what we decided was two very pasty-skinned white people coming up and teaching Black history was just be icky and gross because it's not our lane. And so what Jennifer has been doing is identifying great pieces that have been created by Black writers, Black movie creators, Black documentarians, Black authors, and sharing that information so that you can educate yourself more on Black history. It appears that the votes are in, and so it's the Mashpee Wampanoag story? I'm a little confused. Yeah. I'm excited if it's the Mashpee Wampanoag story, but it's a tie. This is the first time this has happened. Okay, so it's a tie. So what is it in the tie? I say it's because we've got like 10 minutes left for the show. So I say it is host discretion.
Okay.
It's a tie. It is the first time we've had a tie. We have no tiebreaker rules.
Wow.
So Malcontent, if you don't see me looking at the camera, there's a screen that I'm looking at down here, and that's how I'm getting communicated with. So that's why you see me staring off into space. And the winner it's a tie. Mashpee Wampanoag and Children at the Border. Let's do Mashpee Wampanoag. We've had a heavy show. Kids in cages fucking suck.
Yeah.
This
I agree.
This is written.
Do better, Biden administration. Do freaking better. You're screwing this up. All right, Jennifer, Mashpee Wampanoag. I'll let you. It's your story. I'll let you start.
Yeah. So basically, the federal government again dropped the battle over pulling Mashpee Wampanoag reservation land out of federal trust and basically taking it away from them in the middle of a global pandemic. They do not have a large reservation. A lot of the tribes that are left in the Northeast, Native nations, we should stop calling them tribes because they are independent sovereign nations. They don't have a lot of reservation land in that area. And so what they do have is extremely valuable to them. And so what happened is basically, they kind of dropped their legal battle over it. The Mashpee Wampanoag are getting to keep this land, but it was Donald Trump, the Trump administration, and Donald Trump in particular, who has a long history of issues with Native nations related to gaming. I don't know how many of you saw the video of him talking about he was in a courtroom during a legal case, talking about, well, they don't even look like Indians. So he was perpetuating some very problematic stereotypes, flexing his money and his white privilege to try and basically force Native peoples out of the gaming industry so he could build his own. So he has a long history of issues with Native peoples more broadly, not to mention his references to Elizabeth Warren as Pocahontas, which is, extremely demeaning and gross. But this is some really great news because what little reservation land they have, they are getting to maintain. And what's particularly interesting to me is even though we have a Supreme Court that is kind of and upper level courts more broadly that were packed with Trump appointees that are tended to lean more conservative, in the context of a lot of the decisions that have come out regarding Native nations, they've been pretty favorable, which I think is an absolutely wonderful thing. So I am thrilled that they're, getting to keep this land.
I am also, and I grew up in this area. One of the things I was very blessed at growing up in this area is having a very, very strong education in American history. Yes, we were taught the bullshit story of the first Thanksgiving, but the resources were openly available even as a kid in the library to learn the real story. So even before I exited out of high school, I knew that the first Thanksgiving story was just a complete load of crap. The other thing, Jennifer, I really like about this is the Mashpee Wampanoag are actually... there's a lot of friction between them and a lot of other First Nations because there is animosity is held on the idea that they had an opportunity to stop the Pilgrims and at least delay the genocide that was happening, and they elected not to do that. There was serious discussion between Massasoit and his warriors and other people and his trusted council that were around him. I don't think a lot of people, people hear Native Americans and they think teepees and stuff. They were part of the Great Iroquois Alliance. So they're living in longhouses. If you ever go to Plymouth Plantation, you go into a Mashpee Wampanoag log house, which is very similar, actually, the ones we have in the Pacific. And then you go into the dirt floor cabins that the settlers were living in. Trust me, you would be like, so this is where the white people stay?
Yeah.
I want to go stay with the indigenous people, please. It's not even close. So there was serious conversation about just killing the settlers. There were some that were like, look, because fur trappers, etc., had been coming for decades and they had taken slaves and hostages and killed people. When the Pilgrims first landed, they landed on Cape Cod and they got a very angry reception from the natives. People were there. So they're like, okay, bad spot. We'll keep sailing. And then they sailed around to Cape Cod. And the ultimate decision is that Massasoit and the Wampanoags had lost about 90% of their population from an unknown disease. It wasn't in all likelihood not a disease that came over from Westerners. They did not describe anything like smallpox or measles. They described what they describe as like a coronavirus almost, actually, is what they...
That's not now. Like if you look at the scholarship coming out within history, looking back at this period, they do believe that some of what they had was actually came from contact with Europeans. But a lot of, this was a very kind of usual thing when settlers would come and to a place where they were, Native peoples had tensions between each other prior to the arrival of Europeans. And so what would happen is sometimes they would ally themselves with settlers in order to gain their protection. And so even if you're looking down at like the Aztecs and Cortez, Cortez was able to get in to the Aztecs and defeat them through a combination of disease and allying with upset tribute populations that helped get him in there. And this is a very similar thing. So I'm going to share there's a great documentary that was produced and directed by a Native man named Chris Eyre, also helped created by Sherman Alexie. There's tons of Native scholars and Native peoples who talk about their stories, and it's called We Shall Remain, and it was done by PBS, and I want to say 2012. But the very first episode is something to do, I can't think of it, I show it in my class too, something to do with after the Mayflower. And so it talks about all the things that were happening at the time settlers arrived, the relationship, the deterioration of the relationship, the death of Massasoit, and then the rise of his son. They called him King Philip. His name was actually Malcontent. There was this King Philip's War that really kind of rampaged through the colony. And the end of that was, very graphic. Ended up very poorly. Native peoples were sent off to the Caribbean as slaves. Malcontent had his head chopped off and put on a stake to prevent and quash any further Native rebellion. So I highly recommend this documentary series called We Shall Remain. It starts after the Mayflower and ends in the 1970s with the occupation of Wounded Knee by the American Indian Movement. It is a fantastic documentary, totally from an Indigenous perspective. So yeah.
We Shall Remain is tremendous. I would call it required watching on that. King Philip's War is something that is not probably taught out of New England at a primary school level. We were taught about it. It's a war that almost nobody in this country knows about. In terms of population loss, it is the bloodiest war ever fought on the North American continent. Over 10% of the population was killed in this war, and the settlers actually were having serious conversations in Massachusetts and in Rhode Island and in what is part of New Hampshire. New Hampshire didn't exist at the time, of packing up and leaving because they were losing the war.
They were losing the war, and it's such a, and at the root of it is we talk about settler colonialism all the time, and I think I've talked about it a little bit before, and it's just it's very different from regular colonialism, in that settlers come to stay and build structures, and part of that is predicated on the removal of indigenous people and the acquisition of land. And this war was about land. Settlers wanted more land, and Philip didn't want to give it to them. Because he saw what was happening, and he saw what happened, prior to the death of his father. So I teach about King Philip's War in my early U.S. history class, and I make them read some of the primary sources. And it's particularly interesting because there were a lot of people in the colonies that were like, we don't want to do this. They were in favor of it, but like all wars, once the tables start to turn and you start to see your side become victorious, then more people are willing to sign on to the battle. It's a very gruesome war, and I wish more people knew about it because it is very much reflective of this kind of shift in the relations between Native peoples and white settlers that continues and has some very, resonating legacies into the present day.
Jennifer, thank you so much for that. I always love the insights that you have and you bring because of your vocation on this. I could totally geek out with you for like another hour just on King Philip's War because it's something I have read a lot about, and I get it. You teach it, and I would love to sit and learn. We'll have to save that conversation, though, for not the rest of our audience to hear. With that, I'm going to move to our closing segment, and then we're going to say our goodnights.
Okay.
Malcontents, I want to talk to you about three different, header says vehicular assault. However, that's just in the interest of keeping things brief on that card. Two of them technically aren't vehicular assaults. But I would want to talk to you. You'll see me glancing down because I have a long list of names to this story, and I want to get these names right, and I want to get these stories right. This is a story of Jason Ravensborg out of South Dakota, of Tammy Packard in Bothell, and of Alec Gajos. And of those three names for our local audience, probably one resonates. Alec Gajos. I want to start off by listing three more names, which is Joseph Bover, Carson Cox, and Sarah Fox-Heath. I want to start by saying that their lives mattered. Their lives had value. All three of them are dead. Jason Ravensborg out of South Dakota struck Joseph Bover in his car, and he kept driving. Joseph Bover died in a ditch on the side of the road in South Dakota. What makes this even more disturbing is Jason is the Attorney General of the state of South Dakota. He came back 15 hours later under the banner of, I wanted to remove the deer carcass from the road. And upon discovering the human body, called authorities. There's been a very lengthy investigation. Jason volunteered for a blood alcohol test almost 20 hours after he struck Joseph. And what a shock. His blood alcohol was 0.0. Jason is facing 3 misdemeanor charges in South Dakota this week. And there is talk about potentially, ironically, impeaching him out of his job from Attorney General. The South Dakota legislature is controlled by Republicans, and it's Republicans talking about impeaching him. The next name on this list is Alec Gajos. Alec Gajos struck Carson Cox and Sarah Foxheath, who were walking on the side of the road on 524 in Bothell, Washington. Actually, within walking distance of where I used to live. Where Alex Gajos was arrested is a store, a 7-Eleven, that I used to walk to frequently for things like a half a gallon of milk. Alex Gajos was arrested, and he did the exact same actions as Jason Ravsborg. Instead of going, well, I thought I hit a deer, he said, well, I thought I hit a trash can. And he went to work like nothing happened. And if you go and you Google and you look at the picture of Alex's damage, and you look at the picture of the damage to Jason's car, they're almost identical. But there's one key difference to this story. Alex Gajos was tracked down like the dog that he is, and the dog that he deserved to be tracked down of. And he is sitting in jail for the murder of 2 people. Jason Ravsborg in South Dakota, the attorney general of that state, is home with his wife and family, facing 3 misdemeanor charges. Now, there was another name that we talked about in here, which is Tammy Packard. Tammy Packard is the woman that drove her car through a peaceful protest in Bothell a couple of weeks ago. And then Tammy Packard claimed that she was the victim. She was scared and she was confused, and they were coming at her, when the video on the scene doesn't support that at all. And then less than 2 weeks later, the collective pearl clutchers in Bothell, Washington, are horrified that 2 people are struck by a car, left in the ditch to die by an indifferent driver. What happened to, well, you should stay out of the road if you don't want to get hit. Don't twist what I just said, because you know exactly where I'm going with that. Oh, but it's different. No, it's not different. Because you know what? In some ways, for Alex Gajos, it's maybe not quite as bad. Because did Alex Gajos drive down 524 going, I sure hope that I'm going to hit 2 people and kill them tonight, or this morning, I should say. But Tammy Packard, who claimed she was the victim, had lots of options beyond driving through that protest, hitting a fence, and striking 5 vehicles. But she did it willingly. The Bothell police gave Tammy Packard a hall pass. And now the Bothell police and the state police are horrified that in their town, the 2 people were struck by a car and left for dead. Just like in South Dakota. There's 3 stories here, and there's 3 different legal angles, but this ties into the theme of our show tonight. There are different levels of justice in the United States, depending on who you are. And the scales of justice, she is no longer blind. Her blindfold is off, and she judges people before they even step foot in a courtroom. Jason Ravsborg has been judged as a good guy, basically. He just made a terrible mistake. Now, if you and I hit somebody and left somebody dead on the side of the road, and then 15 hours later went back and then claimed that we hit a deer, we thought it was, and then we said, okay, we're going to submit to a alcohol test now that 15 hours have gone by, and then authorities drag their feet 5 more hours to do the blood draw to come up with 0.0, because if his blood alcohol was below 4.0, when he killed Joseph Bover, married, 55, then of course his blood alcohol is 0.0. Make no mistake about it. He's getting that hall pass in South Dakota because he's the attorney general. Make no mistake about it. Alec Gajos is getting nailed to the wall because he's an average slob like you and I, which is not to minimize the death of Carson or Sarah, but it is the hypocrisy of the legal system. And Tammy Packard, with her Facebook page full of hate against Black Lives Matter and black people, is snug as a bug in a rug in her home tonight, knowing she will never get charged and got away with the crime that she got away with. If you live in Bothell and you go, right on, Tammy Packard, and in the next breath, you hope that Alex Gajos burns in hell, you are a hypocrite. And there is no other way to put it. If you are defending the South Dakota Attorney General because he's a Republican, and certainly it must have just been a deer, you are a hypocrite. If you are outraged at the miscarriage of justice and how 3 people are being treated 3 completely different ways, all 3 of them fled the scenes of their crimes. 2 of them killed people. 1 of them, we don't know intent in their heart, but certainly, based on their Facebook postings, had intent in their heart to send a message to peaceful protesters. Anyway, malcontents, think about it and do better and demand better from your officials. There you go.
Well said. Well said.
All right, Jennifer, I think that's it. Jennifer, I said we would hit 2 hours. We're at 2 hours, 5 minutes, and I'm actually considering we had 9 stories tonight.
Yeah.
And an insurrection update.
We did all right.
I think we kicked ass tonight. Actually, if we had a normal story load, this would have been an hour show.
Yeah. Look at us.
Look, we're growing up.
We're doing stuff. Yep.
I know, malcontents, I'm leaving you on a really heavy note. I don't know what else to tell you on this one. I'm going to close with this on something. Here's something you could do that you can help us out. I'm going to hit this button a couple of times and make this fly out a couple of times. We're actually getting close to a magic number on YouTube. So when you're done tonight, when we go off the air and you all said your goodbyes, what you could do, go to YouTube, subscribe to us. Doesn't matter if you don't watch us on YouTube, you're watching us on another channel. Go to YouTube, subscribe to our channel. A couple of things are going to happen. Rashi, our editor, does an amazing job. And she actually breaks up this show into individual stories that we covered. So then you can go back if there's just a story you want to share or rewatch. You don't have to go through a 2-hour stream to do it. You can just go to that one story. And you get that on YouTube. You also get it on Twitch. The second thing is 1,000 followers. We are 1,000 subscribers. We are pushing hard for 1,000 subscribers. More men! Keep pushing!
Keep pushing!
Keep pushing! That was the other one. More men! Keep pushing! That was the same.
Yeah.
With the love palace, the liberal love palace. That was the same one. We need more subscribers. Keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
There you go. Do that for us. Jennifer, thank you so much. Tremendous show tonight. Malcontents, thank you so much. We will see you Thursday. We have a ton of in-house content for you coming up on Thursday. KCTS Channel 9 is doing a roundtable discussion at 7 o'clock on Black youth mental health. And we are going to have a couple of interviews at 8 o'clock as that roundtable is ending from some of the participants that are in that. And we're really excited to be working with KTCS on that event. That's the local PBS channel. Mm-hmm. Jennifer, good night to you.
Good night. Good night, David. Good night, everybody.
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
Antifa, fuck you!
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.